This book actually has the line, "Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic," in it, and still, by the end of the first book, it still looks like most of the people in it are using actual magic. But maybe that gets explained in the next one? Hey folks, welcome back to my channel. I'm Kat, and today I would like to talk about The Wake of Manadar by T.R. Pierce. The Magisters think wizards that are loyal to the Royalists are taking their last stand in Manadar and partake in a dangerous ritual to maybe turn the tides in this civil war against the Lily College. But while they do so, in another dimension, Amanda Devereux is going for a routine checkup. She is an agent for the office, some sort of secret organization. The blurb says they work on dimensional research. I didn't see any of that in the book, or I don't remember it. She seems to work like a spy and an assassin. So while she goes for this checkup, the Magisters in Manadar perform this ritual and everything goes wrong. Both places are blasted out of existence, but Amanda finds herself in another world when she wakes up. She soon encounters some of the remaining forces of the Lily College and joins them to prevent greater catastrophes. So positives first. There's a lot going on in this book, not only between the cyborg parts of Amanda, so the sci-fi section, and the fantasy and magic section, that is pretty much the whole world around her, but also between politics, the war, and some other bits that are going on. There's a lot happening, which I actually quite enjoyed. But the fact that a lot is happening in various places also means you encounter quite a few characters, and not all of them will stick in your memory, I'd say, because I already forgot several of them. Well, certainly their names, but that's normal for me. But in general, I couldn't tell you much about some of the characters that play a rather important role in some bits. Another positive point, there is a lesbian relationship in this, and very few people seem to make a fuss about it in any way, so it seems to be fairly accepted, which is great. But that also leads me to the more problematic points, I think, because quite a few lines or characters struck me as somewhat sexist, especially in relation to noticing this lesbian relationship. Like, one guy just keeps coming on to Amanda until she tells him that he's gonna get his nose broken if he keeps coming, and he just goes, "Oh, it's not my week for the ladies." It's like, yes, thank you, I really needed to know that, also I don't care. And then some older magister is like, "Ooh, there's a specific bond between those two. I would quite like to watch what they're doing now while those two ladies vanish into a room." And to be fair, their bond also has magical properties. So there is something magical going on there as well, in addition to just the relationship. So it's not just creepy, but it's still creepy enough to make me think, why did this need to be in there? And nobody else around this older magister seems to mind either, like not the lady magister that is currently in charge, not the younger guy. They're all just like, "Oh yeah, this is perfectly normal behavior," and they kind of seem to think it's funny. They somewhat tell him off like, "Yeah, that's not going to happen." But I feel like they were all very chill about this, and maybe somebody should have had a stronger opinion on some of those creepy lines. This goes hand in hand with Amanda is somewhere in a crisis, like shit just blew up around them, and the sergeant that is coming for us like, "Oh, you don't seem to be wearing any clothes." Yes, thank you. Have you noticed the destruction around us, the crisis we're currently in? You know, maybe there are more important things to focus on than the fact that she's currently naked. Like, who cares? But yeah, apparently that's always important enough to be noticed and mentioned. And then some other guy came across as rather fatphobic. He's standing in his office and his spy master essentially comes running. And the first thing he notices or mentions about her are her ample breasts. And I'm like, You've seen this woman like every day of most of your life. You work with her and she is your spy master. You are in politics and your spy master comes running, clearly excited or upset about something, so something important has happened, and you still have time to inform me about her breasts and how she's wheezing, which must be tied to her unusual appetites. And at first I thought he was just talking about, oh yeah, she eats too much or whatever. But no, this actually refers to her fondness of torturing other people for her entertainment, which is completely separate, but you only learn that much later. And I would also like to point out that Finn people wheeze too, because if we run and we are unfit, then you get the same noises out of us. So yeah, there were overall a couple of instances where I was like, I didn't need to read this really. When Amanda first gets there, she can't communicate with anybody because the languages are so separate that even her inbuilt AI system cannot figure it out. So Talia, the magister in charge of the army at this point, or of this section of the army, the Lily College, has to use a spell to even enable communications between them. And still, all of them seem to be cursing in the same way, like they are swearing a lot, for starters, but then it also seems very English, somehow. Might be part of the spell, but I don't know, whenever I came across it I was like, Languages aside, wouldn't the culture maybe facilitate different versions of cursing as well? Or different expressions that then get translated into English? For instance, something happens and this character, whose name I already forgot actually, Lizette, there I remember somebody. She goes, even if you're planning to go try and make friends with that royalist lunatic, there's no way in Thelen's burning shithouse you're getting through all that lot. What are you going to do? Walk up to them and say you have a Foundation Day present for her? And to which Amanda says she has to suppress the urge to ask for an explanation for some of those colorful phrases. And I'm like, what colorful phrases do you need explained here? The burning shithouse? I don't think you need that. At this point she knows that Thelen is the god or the first mage that they have. I don't think she knows what the Foundation Day is, but it doesn't matter because it's clearly not a colorful phrase for anything. So I'm not sure what Amanda doesn't understand in this line. But this is also the most otherworldly cursing you get. Everything else is used fucking everywhere. A bigger problem than what comes across as sexist or other things to me is I think that a lot of characters over-explain things. Like they meet Amanda for the first time, maybe they know her for a day, and she wants to know something about magic. They just explain everything to her. There is no suspicion, no wariness, no nothing. They just give her all the details and are happy to share literally anything, including some rather personal stuff. Like there's a guy who's traumatized over something, and even he drops way too much info about his personal issues to her like the first time they meet. I was like, why? Why would you tell a stranger this? And in line with trusting Amanda way too quickly and way too easily, at some point the army finds like, oh, we have this super fancy sword with us that we didn't even know we had, which is like a relic from the Royalists, so something you would technically put in a museum, possibly, or under guard, because it also seems to have very specific magical properties that you probably don't want out there either. And they just hand it to Amanda because she's not armed and this sword kind of seems to fit her. Okay, that's a thing, I guess. Now the writing itself was mostly okay, maybe a bit too heavy on the adverbs, like slightly huffily and things like that. Like you could have lost a couple of adverbs, really, and they do have their place in writing. You don't need to get rid of all of them, but there are a few too many in here. And then an odd formatting thing, every single ellipsis has turned into 2 full stops instead. This is nitpicking. If you don't care about this kind of stuff, you'll just read over it, so it doesn't matter, but I noticed. So overall, because I found the world building quite interesting and I like the mix of sci-fi and fantasy, I am curious to find out whether there is any actual magic or whether it is advanced technology that they don't even know is technology, they're just using it. I am tempted to pick up the next one, but then the sexist bits are, one can hope that they improve in the next book, but I'm not holding my breath on that. So if I have too much time on my hands, then I might pick up the next one. For now, it's this cat, because the world building is rather intriguing, and most of the characters are also fairly capable, so you're not dealing with complete doofuses like you do in some other books. So if you care to see how a cyborg will fare in a world full of magic, then this book might be for you. Let me know in the comments what is your favorite book that crosses sci-fi and fantasy. Thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe if you want to help this channel out, and I'll be back next week with another video. Bye folks!